I want to know how you feel about President Shithole. I mean, we might as well go with it, right? The President of the United States, the White House has all but confirmed, the president himself, via his Twitter timeline, has all but confirmed that he did refer to Haiti and African nations. And I think he threw in El Salvador for good measure. He referred to them as shitholes. And of course, the firestorm that ensued is um, predictable, particularly on the conservative side. Um, there is no limit to the extent to to how far, rather. There's no limit to how far that they will go to protect their dear president, Trump, and to protect from the idea that racism actually exists. Um, of course, you have mainstream outlets who are outraged, and rightfully so, right? You have the Don Lemons of the world who are taking this moment to do what he does, and rightfully so. I'm not knocking him, but you know me, I knock everybody, including myself. Even on the left, the far left, you have people who are trying to make this about class and not race. And as much critique and analysis as I've given on class versus race, you can't sit here and tell me that this has nothing to do with race and everything to do with class. So all of the reactions have been pretty expected, par for the course. And that's just where we are in this political discourse in the United States. But the, the discourse, however, is clearly devolving. Everyone's reactions are kind of, prepackaged, but the discourse is devolving, where it actually makes sense for me to say F President Trump on Twitter, and I wouldn't even say it on my own show, but I say it on Twitter, F President Trump, and there's nothing to it, because that's where the discourse here in the United States has gotten, and that is because that's something that you can 100% lay at the feet of Fox News and Donald Trump and the media in general, but specifically Fox News, Donald Trump, that 1-2 combination. There's no depth to their depravity. There's no end to where they would take us. I'm going to read some responses on Twitter. I'll pull it up on your screen. Some, what people have had to say about it. There's a video from Tucker Carlson that shows you just exactly where they are. And again, it's not surprising so much as it is just one more step in the direction of the complete destruction of any meaningful discourse in the United States. And I think we are past that point, right? There's nothing meaningful or substantive that can happen while this president is in the White House. Only thing that's substantive that happens are the moves that he makes to hurt the American people. CHIP, Republican Party, they're not renewing CHIP. They're holding that hostage to get cuts in Medicare and Medicaid. Medicaid work requirements are now being instituted. We'll go over that, but those are the things that are happening in this country. And in the backdrop of it is that we have an administration who has such a disdain for black and brown people. It has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with class. My ass is black and you can kiss it. No, seriously, it has everything to do with race. Now, we could talk about the historical context of it, right? We could talk about the exploitation, colonialism, neocolonialism. We could talk about how capitalism has contributed to the demise of these nations. But we could also talk about the punitive measures that were taken against Haiti, particularly because they became the first black, independent, free republic in the Western Hemisphere after their revolution. But punitive measures have been taken against these nations, and these nations are not impoverished for no reason at all. These nations are not third world just because they're down on their luck. They're third world. They're developing nations specifically because of what the United States did through neocolonialism and what Europe did, what the UK did in colonialism. I mean, Europe in general, right? I can't absolve any European nation in that. So the reason these nations are still recovering, they're recovering from the damage that was done to them by predominantly white nations who extracted wealth from them, exploited them, plundered their nations for all their value. And it's still going on today. Look at how many foreign powers are in the continent, are on the continent of Africa, extracting wealth every day. Both companies as well as international companies, as well as nations that are there. And so this just shows you, man, that we are that no matter how far we think we've come, we've barely begun the process of creating a society that is equitable. We're nowhere near addressing issues of class. We're nowhere near addressing the issues of race. We're still at a very juvenile level of discourse in the United States of America, and it's being the problem is being exacerbated by the nature and character of the man that's in the White House. Part two, don't tell people what to be upset about. I do my best not to tell people what to be upset about because I hate when people tell me what to be upset about. People are trying to redirect everyone's anger about this and say, no, this is what you're supposed to be upset about. You're supposed to be upset about America's military and foreign policy. That's what you should be upset about. Or you're supposed to be upset about class. This is not about race. This is about, oh, you can't say anything about this because you never said anything about Obama and what he did. Or you can't say anything about this particular problem because you didn't say anything about the Clinton Foundation and what they did in Haiti. Well, first of all, no, we said it about everything. Everything that I just spoke of is something that we speak out against almost damn near every week, 2 or 3 times a week. Check the receipts. People make these straw man arguments in order to grandstand, particularly on social media, specifically on Twitter. They make these, and because they want to redirect your attention to them and say, look at me. I have the right reason for you to be upset. And they always they say, oh, don't be mad about this because it's not really about this. It's about what I think it's about. So come and listen to this 400 tweet thread about why it's really a problem of X and not a problem of Y. No, bitch, I said what I said. I'm upset about this because it demonstrates the depth of the racism that exists in the White House currently. Of course, there's been racism in the White House all throughout the history of the United States. Yes, there has been. But does that mean I'm not supposed to say anything about the current form right now? No, that's not what that means. It's almost like attention. They need attention. I don't like the particular reason that you're mad. These are social media sophists. These, I don't like the reason that you're mad. And because I don't like the reason that you're mad, I want you to be mad about this. And this is what we're going to discuss in our little echo chamber. And this is how we're going to, and so we're going to throw darts over at you and say, oh, if you think about this and you think this is only about racism, then you're not seeing the whole picture. And that's fine. Do what you want to do. Fine. I'm not going to tell you what you can't do. But the reality of it is that this 100% has to do with how the sitting president of the United States views black and brown people, period. Hands down. You think he has any more love? If it was about wealth, right? If it was about class in this case, he would have said wealthy, rich. He would have said poor. He didn't say any of those things. He referred to black and brown nations, particularly he lumped together all black nations and he lumped together the entire continent of Africa and referred to it as a shithole. And somehow we're supposed to look at this and not think about the racial component of it because some socialist greater than thou says so. I'm sorry. You're missing the forest for the trees. Here's the problem with the class versus. God, go watch my old videos. That's all I'll say. Go watch my old videos because there is always class versus race, class and race. There's a class component. There's a class analysis that can be given on almost every single thing in this country. But when you neglect to see the racial component of it, then you are doing a disservice to the people who actually have to live based on the racial animus that exists in this country. Live in the racial animus that exists in this country. And so to constantly dismiss the notion of race does a true disservice to the people that you need to be comrades and allies. That's number one. Then to dismiss it for the purposes of making it all about class. And I get it. Sometimes there's a countervailing force, right? The pendulum swings back and forth. You have neoliberal identity politics that has run amok so far that it seems that the counterbalance to that should be a full-blown class analysis and nothing else. But it's not in the extremes of either of those conversations, because you're leaving out something critical when you live in those extremes of race only, class only. And in this case, with the president of the United States, you think he has 1 ounce of respect for a rich person from Haiti with what he said on yesterday? No, he has absolutely zero respect for any person of color. And that's just the truth. So let's see some comments in the comment section. I think the people who think this is it's about class and not race are either disingenuous or complacent with white supremacy. I agree. I agree with that comment. That comment is from Michael Boyd. Michael Boyd said that the people who believe this is only about class. And this is the problem, right? This is a problem I have with some socialists. This is a problem I have with some leftists. It's because they don't allow themselves, or they genuinely at the core of them, forget what I started. They genuinely at the core of them think that the only problem that exists in this country is class. And they don't see how class is compounded by race. Your class analysis is not complete if you don't understand it through a racial lens. Your racial analysis is not complete unless you apply a class lens. And that being the case, you are completely wrong when you assert something is 100% about class, when he's speaking specifically about black and brown nations and in the backdrop of white nations doing the exact thing that these white supremacists are complaining about, quote unquote, anchor babies. There's an article from, I forgot the outlet. Forgive me for getting the outlet, but I saw it and I just read the headline, and I didn't even have to read the article because it's like, duh. I never thought about it, but it makes so much sense. There's a group of undocumented Irish immigrants who are here illegally. And one of them said that they commented about how easy it was for them to be in this nation illegally and not have any concerns. So and then I have some black friends. I have some black friends who exist in this space also. And this is why, our show is not as popular with certain circles, is because, we call everybody out. That's, that we call everybody out. And it doesn't matter whether we're calling out leftists or whether we're calling out whoever. We'll call them all out. And we have there's some voices that will just say class only, and they will never give it the best position that you could probably get is to be a black person who will say race has nothing to do with this. And it doesn't matter whether you're saying this from a conservative side or from a leftist side. If you say that, that's a pretty good position, because they're white people who want to be absolved of their white guilt. I will applaud myself right there. White people who either want to be absolved of their white guilt, or they just are tired. They're fatigued with the race conversation, And I'm sorry if you're, like Jon Stewart so famously said, if you're tired of talking about a race, imagine how hard it is to actually live this. If you ask me what my day-to-day problems, the thing that I face the most, that I personally struggle with, it would be economics, class, right? It's this American economic, monopolistic, capitalistic system that drains every penny from your life, right? So let's be clear about that. But at the same token, that is compounded by race.